Okay, so I had a request to make a video about crafting and going a little bit more in depth. So that's what we're gonna do here. Crafting system, if you're new to PoE, is like 100 times more in depth than just about any other ARPG out there. Probably more so than any other ARPG, period. So there's multiple types of crafting. As you can see, we'll go over the orbs first. So all this is crafting. This is all currencies used to craft. You're gonna have Orb of Transmutation. This upgrades a normal item to a magic item with one modifier. So a normal item like this one, it will upgrade this to be a blue like this, and it'll give it 2 stats. The Orb of Augmentation actually adds 1 new modifier. So a blue could only have 2 stats, period. So like typically when I said 2 stats on turning it into a blue. That's wrong. It usually gives 1 stat. And then you use an Orb of Augmentation and you can get 2 stats like this staff that I'm showing here. Then you have an Orb of Alchemy. Basically what this does, and I'm going to demonstrate all these for you guys so that you can see kind of what each one does. I probably won't use my Orb of Annulment just because it's the only one I have, and they're hard. You don't come across them very often. They're not super useful, but I'll explain what it is in a minute. Regal Orb will take a magic item, this blue, and it'll turn it into a rare, which is this yellow. Normally what that does, it adds 1 more attribute. So you'll start out with 3 attributes on a rare, and you can add attributes to it, which I'm going to show you how to do that in just a minute. The Chaos Orb will remove 1 random modifier on a rare item and give it a new modifier. So say I use this, and like I said, I'm going to demonstrate this. I'm just going to show you just to start, kind of give a brief explanation, then I'll go back and get actually in good detail. So a Chaos Orb, so if I use that on this guy, for instance, say it would take this mana per enemy killed, it could take that away, or it could take away the attack speed, you know, whatever it is. It could do pretty much anything. Any of these 4 stats could get changed, and it would augment it with a new one. So if it augments a prefix, it's going to add a prefix. Augments a suffix, then it's going to add a suffix. It's random, you can't control it. You can go through a ton of these by just trying to get good rolls, which is okay. I mean, they're not super hard to get in maps. I wouldn't say that they're common, but currency is definitely a lot easier to get than it was early on in early access. Then you have a Val Orb. This modifies an item unpredictably and corrupts it. So basically, like, this is corrupted. And I don't believe... Oh, so when I had this staff initially, I actually had 2 other stats down here. I didn't have critical hit chance and I didn't have increased attack speed. But what it did is it took away plus melee skills. So I had +5 to melee skills on this staff. It took away that 1 modifier and gave it these 2, which was 2 times better than 5 levels on a melee skills. So I got 8% increased attack speed and 3.6 to crit chance, which I'm a crit build, so it worked for me. And of course, attack speed, my skills aren't spells. You actually have, you actually cast them, and they're considered a skill or an attack. So that scales the attack speed of those skills. So all in all, it was a good roll for me. It did corrupt the item. One thing I'll say about corrupting items is do not corrupt an item you plan on keeping until your quality is +20. Quality +20 and you socketed it. If you do not socket it and you do not have +20 quality, once you corrupt the item, you cannot go back and get that. So if you have a really good item that you're trying to hold on to, you need to get these blacksmith whetstones, and it can give you up to 3% on 1 roll of these, but typically it's 1 to 2, more likely 1 than 2, but it can still happen. And you need to take your weapon to quality 20%. Also, you need to get Artificer Orbs, and you need to add 2 rune. Oh, in a weapon, you can add 2. Armor, you can add 2. Everything else, you can add 1, except for belts, rings, and amulets. You can add 2 sockets to a weapon. You can add 2 sockets to an armor. You can add 1 to boots, 1 to gloves, 1 to helmet. So, like I said before, it's absolutely imperative if you plan on using that item, do not use a Vol Orb on that item until you've socketed it and you've got quality plus 20, or there's no going back. You've capped that item at that point. Now, yeah, you may get some awesome prefixes and suffixes, but at the end of the day, this matters too, especially when you have percent increased physical damage, because it's going to add on to this, right? So that's going to scale with your percent increase. So the next orb, you're going to have your exalted orb. This is the most important orb, in my opinion, in the game, because it's used as the main currency. You use it to trade with players. You use it to add, you know, more suffixes and affixes to your weapon, or prefixes and affixes. Sorry, and these are super useful. You do get a lot of these in later maps. 10 through 15, I'm getting them like at least 1, 2 a map, almost every time. And again, I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you what each of these orbs do, except for the annulment. I want to hang on to that just for some random reason that I might use it. Down here, I'm going to go through these items. These are the item enhancement currencies. So you're going to have your Arcanist Etcher. This improves the quality of a wand, staff, or scepter. So, you know, it has to meet those attributes for it to be able to be used. So this is the blacksmith whetstone for those 3 item types. It'll do the same thing, 1 to 3%, typically 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. You're gonna have your armor scrap. This also needs to be taken to plus 20% before you corrupt an item. I can't stress that enough. I can't tell you how many people I see asking about how can they take a corruption off? You can't. The item is done. You have stuck a fork in it. It's done. But this is used. This can be used on any type of armor except for gloves, or except for rings, amulets, and belts. And it may even work on belts. I'm not sure. I guess we'll find out. Yeah. So you can't use it on belts. That's what I thought. Then you're going to have your blacksmith whetstone. This is going to be used to include or improve the quality. Sorry, I can't talk today. Improve the quality of a martial weapon. So any main hand weapon, martial, like basically any weapon that does a physical damage attribute, more or less. That's basically, as you can see here, martial weapons can be used to attack: axes, bow, claws, crossbows, daggers, flails, maces, quarterstaffs, spears, and swords. So basically anything that does a physical damage as a base stat. Then you got your Scrolls of Wisdom. No, I'm just kidding. You know what Scrolls of Wisdom are. You've got your Lesser Jeweler Orbs, and these. So if I use this, I'm going to open my skill menu. If I have a skill, let's find one here. I may not have any that don't have. Okay, yeah, so if I wanted to use this on this guy, it added a 3rd slot, right? So you can add more support gems here, and support gems are huge. I mean, they add so much to your damage most of the time, your mana output. Like, support gems are huge for skills. The main thing you got to look out for in this, though, when you're crafting, on this additional reservation, some of these buffs require extra spirit. So if you socket a gem in there, you need to make sure that you have enough spirit, otherwise it's going to disable that passive buff. And once that happens, I had it happen to me numerous times playing the campaign where it turned off the passive buff. I didn't notice it, and at that point it was like I didn't notice it. Like, for instance, let me go to Herald of Thunder. This is huge for my wave clear. Absolutely huge. This is my #1 wave clear damage. It shocks, it explodes. I've got a gem on it that has more area of effect, so this is huge for me. So anytime that this goes red because I didn't have enough spirit to maintain it, I completely lose out on that buff. So it's super important that you know that you're paying attention to that. Your normal skills will not add spirit, typically. I haven't seen one add spirit. I'm not saying that they don't. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but they will not add spirit. So that's the basis of your orbs. Now this is a perfect jeweler's orb. This will take one from a 4 to a 5. It's more late game, and typically you don't need this on every skill. It's good if you have alt characters that have these. These are extremely valuable right now. I think I could get 200 or so exalted out of this off the market. Glass blower's bauble. This is used to increase the quality of your flask, which, to be honest with you, is not huge. It's still helpful if you don't have any other reason to use it, and they don't really go for a lot on the market. But it's not super necessary. All right, so in your journeys, on the say you get a drop on an item that has a slot, or excuse me, a socket, and you don't need that socket. You don't need that item in particular. You can take this and you can have it disenchanted, and you'll get artificer shards. And these, when you get 10 of these, you get one of these. So that's super important to keep your eye on. You need to disenchant when you don't need the gold. Disenchant yellows to get regal shards, and these turn into these. And you can make other rare items with it. So regal shards turn into regal orbs. And these are used to upgrade a magic from a blue to a yellow. Chant shards, Orb of Chance. Orb of Chance is super rare. It's also super useful. I don't see it being super practical right now. I would wait until later. If you get them, hold on to them. Absolutely do not use them unless you need to trade it for something. I would hold on to it. Super rare. Okay, so we've got. All right, so I'm gonna give you a rundown here on some of these crafts. For instance, I'm gonna take you from a white to a blue to a yellow, and then I'm gonna max that out. I'm gonna make it have 6 stats. So I'm investing in this video, so I hope you find it useful. And if you do, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and let me know if you want me to make more content, because I'll be more than glad to. If something I don't know, I'll be more than glad to research it, try to get it out to you ASAP. All right, so what we're gonna do here, we're going to turn this white expert gothic quarterstaff. I'm gonna take this all the way to yellow, from this all the way to yellow with 6 attributes. So, all right, here we go. So I'm gonna take an orb of transmutation. I'm gonna use it. All right, so that was actually a pretty decent roll, I'm not gonna lie. Then I'm gonna take an orb of augmentation. So when you have this currency stash tab, if you don't have it already, it automatically puts them in order. So like, this is before Regal Orb. I'm not sure why. I feel like Regal Orb should be before this, just because this will take a white item and give it 4 modifiers, which I'll show you in just a moment. So Orb of Augmentation, I'm gonna take it, and as you can see, it's still blue. It's only got 1 stat. It's only got 1 attribute. So it's gonna add an attribute to this. So as you can see, that was a pretty dang good roll. So I've got 3 to 116 lightning damage. I've got 20% increased attack speed. Now this is a great first roll. This doesn't happen every time, so don't get your hopes up. But I'm not gonna go with the Orb of Alchemy yet. I'll use that on another item. Where we're gonna go next, we're gonna go to Regal Orb. So we're gonna take this, and what this is gonna do is this is gonna turn this into a rare. So we started with a white, now we've got a blue with 2 attributes. Always make sure before you use these that you use the Orb of Augmentation so you get that extra stat bonus. All right, so we're gonna drop that. All right, I got 30 to dexterity. That's not great. It's not bad. It's good for dexterity if you need it. It's not an ideal stat on a weapon for me. All right, so we're gonna take from there. You're gonna have 3, so you can get up to 6, and that's where your exalted orbs come in. Then you can take this and click here. Actually, if you have the stash tab, you can control click and it'll put it in here. That way you can easily modify this. So there's 1. So I got 353 accuracy rating. I got 15% stun duration, and I got 3 to 7 fire damage. So these are the 6 that it gets. It cannot get more. It can get less if you use Orb of Annulment, but we're not going to use that in this video. And that's only, you know, you only really want to do that if you've got like, say, 3 of your 6, you've got 3 of your 6 stats that you really want. You're taking a 50% chance that you might lose one of your good ones, or you might lose one of the bad ones, and you can roll for another stat. All right, so we got that. So I'm going to corrupt this as well, just to show you what it does. But we're going to actually add a socket, 2 sockets to this. So you're going to use your artificer orbs. So I got 2 sockets. 2 sockets, very important. And blacksmith whetstone. I'm not going to use these, but you're going to want. Okay, I'm going to use one of them. So like that took it up +1 quality. Okay. So this item is now overall, it's a pretty decent item, especially if you're a lightning build. You rely on a fast attack speed like Tempest Fury or Tempest Flurry. If you rely on skills like that, that's huge. 20% attack speed's no joke. Plus the 116 lightning damage. If you're scaling lightning damage, that's huge for this. Ideally, what you would want to see here is a roll on physical strength, but that's not what this point of this video is about, so we're not going to go into that. Or not physical strength, physical damage. So we've got this item. You know what? I'm gonna just go ahead and take it. So look, I've used 3. I've got +4. So one of my rolls was a +2. That's a +1, +6, or +1, +2, +1, +2, +2, +1, +1, +2, +1, +1, and +1. Okay, so now I have a max quality rare 6 attribute staff, 2 sockets. All right, so this is an ideal time to decide, would you want to re-roll these? So for instance, if I was to use a chaos orb, it's going to remove one of these modifiers and it's going to add a new one. So I'm going to use a chaos orb. All right, so as you can see, I lost that. Actually probably would be a decent upgrade, because even though I lost the lightning damage, you can see I lost the lightning damage. It added increased elemental damage with attacks. That could potentially go in the right direction. A flat lightning damage versus 112% increase, I don't think it compares. Depending on your build, of course, and what level you are. But, so you saw what the Chaos Orb did. And if you didn't, you can rewind this video. But I used the Chaos Orb to change a stat on this guy. So what we're going to do next is we are going to corrupt it and see what happens. So we've got two sockets. You've got +20 quality. Very important, especially if you have a physical damage modifier on it. This socket's super important because all of your gems, for instance, all of these that I have in here, all do different things. So like, I could add 1 to 20 lightning damage. You can add 100 accuracy rating, stun buildup, cold damage, increased physical damage. You could actually get 40% of this. You can get 2 to 40 lightning damage. I would strongly recommend that you use increased physical damage in this particular instance versus adding a modifier like this. Typically on this staff, you would want lightning damage versus increased stun duration or dexterity or something like that, or accuracy rating. You don't really need that because typically most of your other gear is going to cover your accuracy rating. Dexterity is going to help a lot. Let me make sure I'm not spreading misinformation. Yeah, so dexterity adds accuracy. So when you have high accuracy, you or high dexterity, you'll have pretty decent accuracy already. So we've done everything. We've got 2 sockets plus 20 equality. I know I keep repeating that. I want you to understand that. It's very important that you understand that before you start corrupting your items. So we're going to take a Vol Orb and we're going to corrupt it and see what happens. You ready? Alright, so not the best roll. That was actually a pretty bad roll. It took away all the elemental damage that I had on there and gave me 22 increased stun buildup. Awful. Completely ruined this item. So you can see what corruption can do, but corruption can also be really good. Like I rolled on my staff, I rolled away 5+ to melee skills, or to yeah, melee skills, to get 8% increased attack speed and crit chance and crit bonus. So that was huge for me. Absolutely huge. It also got rid of another stat that I'm pretty sure was useless because I don't remember it, so I'm assuming that that was the case. Alright, so you saw this was corrupted. You saw how it turned into from a good item to a bad item. It can also go the other direction. It can go from a bad item to a good item. So now that you saw that, I'm going to show you what a Orb of Alchemy does. It's pretty self-explanatory. But let's see if I have a plain weapon or plain item in my inventory. This is all junk I got from trials, so that's why my thing looks so bad. Let's see if I can buy one. Probably not. I don't think that they sell a regular plain white items. Yeah. Well, I was going to show you, sorry. But anyways, basically what that's going to do is, like this staff was white to begin with, it would take this staff that would have no modifiers whatsoever. So you have your base staff, and it would turn it into a, this basically would turn it into this. It would turn it into a rare with these, with 4 modifiers. You know, you would definitely get 4 modifiers. So that's basically what it would turn into from a white if you used a Orb of Alchemy. Sorry I didn't get to use one. I was planning to invest currency into this video, obviously, as you can tell. But that's basically what the Orb of Alchemy would do. It would turn this into a rare with 4 stats. And then you can also, obviously, you can take 2 Exalted Orbs, 2 of these guys, and you can add 2 more stats. So that's something to keep in mind. But that's basically it for crafting gear. Always make sure, so the highlights, if I had to say, the highlights are going to be, do not corrupt an item that you want to keep and use, or you plan on hopefully keeping and using, without 2 sockets and plus 20 quality. Okay. The second takeaway is Vol Orbs can either do really, really, really good things for your items, or really, really, really bad things for your items. As you saw, it completely ruined this staff. I would never use this staff on this character or any other monk for that case. Those are so spread out stats. They're not really super helpful just because of the fact that they're all over the place. There's no, you know, there's no specification there that makes it worth using, if that makes sense. The other key takeaway is always make sure that before you turn something into a rare, that you take your chances rolling with an Orb of Augmentation first, because you might start with 1 stat that's really good, and you might roll 2 bad stats. So you really want to take that item, and these are so common that that's never going to be an issue. You're going to get so many of these throughout the game that it's never going to be an issue to have these. So always make sure you roll that second modifier that second modifier before you turn something into a rare, before you upgrade it. But that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. I hope it had a lot of good information that you can use, take away. If you would like to see more content like this, please let me know. I'm just trying to get into this YouTube thing, and I like helping people, and I like learning games to help people further understand, especially complex games like this, because there is so much to it. But if you like the video, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you think this content was helpful and if you want to see more content like this, or if you don't, that's fine too. But all right, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for sticking around.